I wonder if there's no damage if you start the perfusion very early. There may be small damage which you cannot demonstrate. Is it be right?
Not sure I understand the question. The sooner you do cooling or the sooner you do perfusion, the better. I mean, what I have for the UK, what we have set up for the UK is based on the idea you're not doing a cold washout, you're not doing shipment. You're going immediately to vitrification. You're vitrifying as soon as you can, and so you don't need to wash the blood out. And you can get cooling. You can be cooling the patient with the cold vitrification solution, and you're cooling internally by doing the vitrification perfusion immediately as soon as possible. And so doing everything as quickly as possible, as soon as possible, certainly will help the situation. I don't know, does that answer your question or not? Go ahead.
I try to explain. If you give oxygen very early, you have no reperfusion damage.
Right.
I doubt that this is so. I think there is a very small damage which you cannot demonstrate. Therefore, I wouldn't do this. No CPR, no oxygen.
I see. Well, I disagree, but if begun quickly enough. I mean, let's face it. If people fall down and you know they've been lying on the ground for a minute, and somebody comes along and uses a defibrillator or uses their hands to administer cardiopulmonary resuscitation, the person will get up and recover. And as far as I know, I mean, one of our members at the Cryonics Institute has had this experience, and he seems like a fairly bright man to me. If he has neurological damage, it was very small.
Okay, we have a question over here, and then so you first.
I think the answer is money, but what about an X prize for bringing small animals down to freezing and back? I think that there's a lot of members, at least I know in Alcor, that are quite wealthy. Probably you have many members too that maybe could be interested in supporting an X prize. Have you thought about an X prize?
Well, I don't think that's the route to go myself. If somebody else wants to do it, that's fine. Actually, I have a complaint against, I mean, this is the direction of 21st century medicine research is vitrification. And I think that's shouldn't be the highest priority. I think the number one, if I'd like to see all that money devoted to focusing on the question of cryoprotectant toxicity. What is cryoprotectant toxicity? What are the mechanisms of cryoprotectant toxicity? What can we do to minimize it? That's really a more primary step than whole body vitrification. I think that's where I don't know, an X prize for eliminating cryoprotectant toxicity doesn't sound so exciting, but it's really at the core of everything. And so that's as much as I want to say about that at the moment.
Yes, Sebastian?
By the way, at 21st Century Medicine, they're certainly doing a lot of good work, and it's certainly their money to spend as they please. One of the reasons they're doing that is because the principals are whole body patients themselves, and so they want to improve the whole body vitrification procedure, you know, rather than just have the neuros getting the best treatment.
I think you went for a talk that was like one of your cooling person. You were starting off from a very basic level and then rapidly going into advanced problems. I wasn't quite sure what your conclusion was finally on the Circle of Willis challenge. So are you saying now that you don't actually bother with that? Or?
Well, I have two pieces of evidence which are telling me that it may not be as big of a worry as we thought in the past. One, the Alcor experience. They've never during all the neuros, they've not once worried about perfusing through the vertebrals because they're always seeing perfusate dripping. And the other, this study of unilateral perfusion, in which they see good functional perfusion of the whole brain, done in 2008. And I guess it's sort of hard when you see a couple of studies to say, okay, let's switch gears and go another direction. But it's certainly given me more confidence about the approach that I've encouraged the Cryonics UK people to take. And I would certainly love to just go back to perfusing through the carotids, chronic sensitive patients, because it's not a trivial process opening the chest and trying to clamp off the vessels going to the arms and clamp the descending aorta. There's a lot of things in the way. It can get messy. In some cases the descending aorta is perforated. One of our patients actually died of a aortic hemorrhage, so there was no hope of doing it for that case, certainly. I would greatly prefer, it would greatly simplify things to go back to perfusing through the carotid, and we may, if I start feeling a little bit more confident than I'm feeling now, and probably, the evidence is there. I think that would be a greatly preferred thing to do.
The second question.
Okay, first we have time for about 3 more questions, so I put you on the back and then we'll come back to you. Yes?
You described the problem to bring the vitrification mixture into the brain in very detail. So I just want to ask, do you or do CI also consider a direct injection of the vitrification mixture into the brain and then distribute it via diffusion?
Well, you don't perfuse tissues by injection. You get good saturation of tissues by injection. For one thing, you're not part of what we're accomplishing in perfusion is not just putting vitrification in, but removal of water. And if you just do an injection, you aren't removing any water, and the water is what's causing your freezing damage. So by putting the vitrification solution in and leaving the water in, you're just ending up with a more dilute vitrification solution, which may not even vitrify. You'd have to, compensate for that by doubling the concentration of vitrification solution, which wouldn't be reasonable.
Or maybe in addition?
Pardon?
Or maybe in addition?
In addition, what?
In addition to the vitrification via the veins?
I don't know what you're saying. The vitrification solution is already 70% concentrated. You can't double it to 140%. That doesn't make mathematical sense. And you're just going to get, when you get a very dilute vitrification solution, it's not going to vitrify. That's the bottom line. You're going to end up with a lot of freezing. You want to get rid of the water. That's why you do this perfusion. You want to pull the water out and replace the water with something that's not going to freeze as much as possible. You're not going to get rid of all the water, but you want to get rid of most of it. So injection doesn't do it.
Leslie, you had another question? I think you had a question already, so we'll take you next.
Oh, okay. Are there any ideas to reduce oxygen need at higher temperatures? There are some success with, I think, hydrogen sulfide or so to reduce the oxygen need of the body. This
Well, it would be,
animation
it would be great if these procedures could work. For one thing, we could subject our patients to hydrogen sulfide that are being, out of state and out of country. People in Europe could get the hydrogen sulfide treatment, be put into a state of suspended animation and transported over to the United States for perfusion. It would be great if that could be done. I still haven't seen convincing evidence that this can be applied to humans. It's been done in mice and other small animals, but there's a lot of doubt as to whether this can be applied to humans.
Okay, Sebastian?
Coming back to the beginning of your talk, you took great care to emphasize that you see cryonics as a holistic endeavor that encompasses rejuvenation attempts. And then the rest of your talk, you refuse to speculate on that.
Refused?
To speculate on what those rejuvenation technologies might be.
Well, I'm a supporter of Aubrey de Grey, although I have criticisms of some of his ideas. He was kind enough to publish one of my strongest criticisms in rejuvenation research, and but overall I support his approach.
So, for you, that's inextricably linked. You couldn't do your technology without having...
well, I wouldn't say inextricably linked, but on the other hand, I wouldn't look forward anywhere near as much to coming back, if I can live to 100, to coming back age 100 and still having to deal with infirmities of aging and possibly a worsening of conditions that are going to force me to die again in a few years anyway.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Yes?
Just a question to what you mentioned about researchers. You mentioned that the medical researchers seem not to be really interested in doing the work on the cryonics field. So have there been or are planned in the future any concrete initiatives to maybe sort of cross that border and raise that interest in the future?
Well, this is the approach that 21st century medicine has taken for years. I can't say that there's no overlap in the interest. 21st century medicine has focused on vitrification, improving vitrification for organ transplant. That was its mandate for most of its history, and so they've been looking at improving vitrification of corneas and as well kidneys. Kidneys has been a focus, and other tissues as well. And so and by doing that, if they can succeed in that, if they can succeed in kidney vitrification or cornea, improved cornea vitrification or other tissues, then there can be the medical community and the venture capitalists would take great interest in something that has prospects for application, and then there would be a lot more money by conventional medical researchers going into cryobiological research, organ preservation, which would yield results of benefit to us cryonicists. And I'm certainly hopeful of that approach. But frankly, there are areas of interest in cryonics that just are not things that conventional medicine has any interest in. And you really need a focus. You need dedicated cryonicists doing that work.
Can I say something about that? Can I make a comment on that question?
Maybe since your talk is up next, we can...
It's not next, but it's okay. No, my point was that medical researchers depend on research grants, which their peers have to evaluate and grade. You can't put in a grant for preserving being immortal and get any funding. All researchers, and even the Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft, will not approve such a grant, and researchers live on grant support, unless you have a millionaire to support this type of research, which is really irrelevant to most of medical problems.
Or a billionaire.
Okay, thank you very much. Then again.